You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Hannibal After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Hannibal After Show.
That's deep music right there.
Very deep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something bad's about to happen.
Wait. It's getting climactic. It's coming. Oh!
It's more of a plateau than a crescendo.
Yeah, it was a little more plateau.
We came up and then we leveled off.
A little bit more.
Everybody, Bing is for doing. Hello, everybody. We are doing Hannibal, the Hannibal AFTERBUZZ podcast. And what piece of music is that, Mr. Lemieux?
This is the Red Dragon soundtrack.
Oh, well, there you go, the Red Dragon soundtrack. I thought that sounded a little familiar. There we go. So
it's pretty epic.
Yeah. I am
plateau for a while.
You'll notice I am not Joe Braswell, who usually is the lead host on this. I am Nando Velasquez. Mr. Braswell is out in Vegas working.
We keep losing hosts to that Vegas place.
I'm gonna put air quotes on there.
No, you need enormous air quotes on that one.
Working. He is working.
No working happening.
And I am joined across from me, first of all, the lovely Julia Cearley.
Yes.
And
hello.
Next to her, Joe Braswell's main man.
Wait
Joe
for the music.
Sanfellipo.
Oh, wait. No, that's good.
And Joe Sanfellipo, everybody.
There it is.
Did you like that?
Nah, that was good.
Entrance music.
I need that music everywhere I go now. This is getting complicated. I'm going to have to hire someone to follow me around with a boombox. No, don't talk to me yet. Wait. All right, go ahead.
Wait for it, and go.
Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Yes, I'll have some iced tea.
So we've been caught up. Congratulations, we've been caught up. It's been a week since we've seen each other to talk about Hannibal. It's crazy.
Feels like
you look different.
I do, haven't I? I've changed.
Everything's different about you.
A lot's different. I've gone through puberty. Yes, and we are now doing.
Exciting time in a young man's life.
Very exciting. My voice isn't cracking as much. We are doing episode 10, also known as Roti.
Wait.
If I'm saying it correctly, it's only 4 letters.
I don't know if you're saying it right, but I'll go with it.
Episode 11.
Oh, is it 11?
11,
All
right?
right, my notes say 10, but you know what? I believe it is, it's 10 or 11, but it's Roti.
That's Roti.
Either way, it's roti, which is generally a South Asian bread made from stone ground wholemeal flour, traditionally known as atta flour, that originated and is consumed in India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. It is also consumed in parts of South Africa and the Southern Caribbean, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago.
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 Tobago is what you use in the Winter Olympics.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, you want to go Tobagoing? Its defining characteristic it is that it is an unleavened Indian naan bread. By contrast, it is a yeast-leavened bread. Roti is sometimes referred to as kulcha in Indian cuisine, albeit this term is seldom used outside of the Indian subcontinent. That is probably more about roti than any of you wanted to know, but since every episode is named after a course of a meal, or apparently in this instance, a type of bread, we figured we should bring it to your attention. You're welcome.
Very good.
I feel fully informed.
Yes.
You are fully informed.
Fully informed.
You're rotied up.
I'm rotied up and slightly famished all of a sudden.
First of all, this is episode 11. Thank you very much for that. Our notes were a little bit off there. And
got your back.
Also, where does Roti fit in after an entree, I'm guessing?
That is not specified here.
Okay.
This is a little...
Because this technically is a continuation of episode 5, which was entree. Because it features...
Oh, yes. Dr. Chilton, Abel Gideon.
Yes, exactly.
That cast of characters
so
is what we're dealing with.
Which is great, because I guess we never did resolve it. We just moved on from there, knowing that obviously Gideon is not the Ripper. Not the Chesapeake River. So
we know that.
Sure
we
ain't.
knew that. We knew that from episode 1, technically. Sure ain't. So what do you guys think overall of this episode?
As always, they just make such terrible shows, and it's just a misery to watch. They just get better and better, and there's so much going on, and so you can just sit there and enjoy the heck out of it. I think that so much of this show was about identity, about Gideon's identity, about Hannibal's identity, about Will's identity. There's the loss of identity, and you're taking my identity. Who am I? Who are you?
Yeah.
There was so much going on. We could spend the whole day.
I love that theme.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, and I was like, that's brilliant, because I agree 100% with you on that.
Can you imagine? I mean, Gideon's had his identity taken from him by Dr. Chilton, who I don't want to live, but I think he does live, if memory serves.
Well, he's just really icky.
He's such a crap weasel.
Yeah.
He's just a bona fide certified crap weasel.
I like that.
Yeah.
Dictionary
That is
definition:
fitting.
crap weasel.
Good luck with that one.
Dr. Chilton, that should be in the breakdown. We're casting for a crap weasel.
Well, I love that while Gideon is searching for his identity, Will is losing his pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, losing completely his
poor
identity.
Will.
Complete
He really, really jumped off the edge in this one. He tipped over. He lost it.
Apparently, encephalitis needs to be treated at some point. Can't just keep going.
No.
Weeks and weeks on end.
Yeah. Well, I just love how they kudos to the practical effects department, because those Colombian neckties, I never thought I would see something so realistic looking. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So upsetting.
Yeah.
I mean, just the initial shock of seeing that and looking at it and sort of being like, hey, what's that?
Yeah.
What's that? What's that? I will have probably a nightmare or two about that tonight.
And seeing that tongue move,
Yeah.
that's a delayed reaction. First you see it, and you're trying to figure it out, and then you realize, oh my God, he's still alive or something, because the tongue is moving.
The tongue is moving.
I
Yeah.
love.
Is that like a lizard? If you cut off its tail, its tail
it
still wags
kicks it for a little bit.
bit.
Yeah,
Does
I
the
guess.
tongue have sort of
electrical
like little
impulses still
muscle
going?
memory going?
I don't know. Are there electrical impulses in our tongues just kind of just kicking it every now and then?
Or
So
like
when
if
someone
you're
dies-
beheaded.
Maybe when we talk shit, it's not our fault. Our tongues are just doing stuff they're not supposed to do.
Is that your excuse all the
That's
time?
my excuse. I'm going to write that down. I need theme music, and my tongue is no longer. It's not my problem. I didn't say it. The tongue did it.
It wasn't me. It was my tongue.
It was my tongue. Have you seen the show?
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. It was my tongue. My tongue.
I love that they keep bringing in awesome comedic people to do like Scott Thompson every week.
Yeah.
Dealing with the dead bodies. I love that, and I love that we had our guy Aaron Abrams, who's obviously a funny guy. He came and
Yeah.
hung out with us last week.
He was great.
And Eddie Izzard, who is one of my favorite comedians. It is so jarring to see one of my favorite comics, just describing the Colombian necktie he just gave to somebody. And we had Molly Shannon a few weeks ago in episode 4 that was not aired, but also a brilliant comedian who they brought on to do horrible things.
But what I love about that is that it gives them such a light airiness to these horrific things that they're doing.
It does. It offers that whole little extra sense of because we have relationships with these people going in. We know who they are, and you're right. It takes it. It almost gives it a step back and gives it a twistiness to it, and
because it's not as dark. It's not as brooding. It's not so calculated. It just comes off as their humor does, just what they do.
It's almost a little bit of fun to it. I mean, it's like, we put the fun in Colombian necktie. That's how we do it.
Well, first of all, I mean, for Eddie Izzard, this is not his first dramatic role.
Sorry. I put the word
So you can write that down.
You can write that down. He's full of quotes today, everybody.
Yeah.
He's full of quotes.
All right, we got another.
Eddie is an established actor. I believe he was up for some dramatic awards in England. I have to look that up. But I do know he's done a lot. Not just, he's known very much for his comedy, but this man is an incredible actor.
In the last few years, he's been in a lot of
A lot of stuff.
different things.
He's an incredible actor. And I think there's always something to be said for comedians who do dramatic turns, because for some reason they seem to, what I've always heard about really good comedians doing dramatic turns is, in order to be a comedian, we can make a joke here and laugh at ourselves, but in order to be a comedian, you have to play straight. You always have to play it straight. So sometimes comedians are the best people to do dramatic acting, because no matter how warped the character is, no matter what the psychoses, no matter what they're going through, they commit to it the same way they would commit to a joke.
Yeah.
Or a routine.
Yeah.
Stakes got to be high enough for it to be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So definitely kudos all around. But
and
Eddie's
kudos on his awesome American accent.
oh yeah.
That's pretty good.
Well, they train all British actors to give a good American accent. There's a lot of them out
They're
there.
not all that great.
No, that's true. That's fairly true.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyway, let's get before we get going in breaking this down. Let me bring up something that anyone who's been listening to AfterBuzz the past couple weeks probably has been hearing us talking about this, but it's really worth talking about again. Adventures in Serial Buddies, which is a movie that a lot of AfterBuzzers here were a big part of. And it was released in theaters a few months ago in a couple of limited cities. We saw it, a bunch of us saw it here in LA. It's really, really funny. It has an all-star cast. Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro were pretty much, it was their production company who also handle AfterBuzz. They're the founders here. And they invited a bunch of AfterBuzzers to help out and a bunch of celebrity friends like Kathy Lee Gifford, Henry Winkler, Chris McDonald, Beth Beers from Two Broke Girls. She's hilarious. And they did a movie. And it's a really, really funny movie about two serial killers who become friends. And it's a bit of a road trip movie. They're just out killing people, and they have a little quest that they're going on. And regardless, this is a really, really funny movie. It's on iTunes right now. It came out on iTunes as of last week. And we would totally love it if you gave it a look. It's about $4.99 to rent, $5.99 to buy. If you're listening to us right now on iTunes, it's really simple. Just go on over, do a search for Adventures in Serial Buddies. You can download it. And again, a lot of AfterBuzzers here put a lot into it. And we, what we're doing here really is a product of what Kevin and Maria do with their other projects. When they make money, they can put it into AfterBuzz. So pretty much by investing in Serial Buddies, you can pretty much keep the lights on here. So anyway, so that's it for that. Let's move on and let's talk about this show. So, hey, so what do you want to talk about, Mr. Sanfellipo?
Well, I want to talk briefly about psychic driving and this whole idea of Dr. Chilton being able to create a new identity in Dr. Gideon. I think that's such a wild idea. I mean, it's a psychic procedure in which patients are subjected to continually repeated audio message on a loop tape to alter their behavior. And so you got to assume, now they don't go into it, but you got to assume that Dr. Chilton, who those of you who don't recall, was the crap weasel who had his innards taken out by Dr. Gideon and placed on his stomach, whilst Freddie was ventilating him. Poorly, by the way, poor ventilation on Freddie's part. I was very disappointed. But Dr. Chilton was driving Dr. Gideon into thinking he was the Chesapeake Ripper, so that Chilton would get the attention for having found him. And this is kind of a controversial thing. It's a dangerous thing to do. But again, the whole idea of identity. So we're driving this Gideon guy away from who he is into this other identity, which he adopts at one point. And I think he figures out that he's not after he kills the nurse. And I think he realizes as time goes by that he is not the Chesapeake Ripper. But it's interesting to me, this concept of being able to take someone's identity and change it. And then his response to that, obviously, he escapes, and then he scrambles the brains of the guys he kills during his escape.
Yeah.
He takes out their organs like a surgeon, not like surgeons just typically do that, but that's the way he did it. But then instead of removing the brains, he literally scrambled them, which is kind of symbolic for what Dr. Chilton did to his brain.
Yeah, very symbolic. I was wondering if he actually used a fork like I do when I scramble my eggs or not, or just some branch.
That's how I see it.
That's how you see it in your eyes.
Absolutely. I can't imagine any other possible way. It's a fork or nothing, guys.
Well, here's what I find really interesting about this whole. I mean, Dr. Gideon is an incredibly smart person. You can just tell he's incredibly smart. So I'm guessing that psychic driving is something so powerful that it can affect a mind like Dr. Gideon's.
Well, he's a captive audience. He's been a captive audience for over a decade. You know, in complete solitary confinement. And the only person he gets to talk to is Dr. Chilton, and Dr. Chilton is completely manipulating him and driving this idea in his head day after day for God knows how many hours a day, and just convincing him through and through. And he already has those tendencies. He's already a killer. Yeah. So why, after all this time, would he not think that he was capable of doing these things as well? True. Absolutely true.
It's interesting to me, all the psychiatrists on the show are pretty much presented, with the exception of Alana Bloom, as having a relative lack of morality. I know that's going to come off weird, but there just seems to be a casualness about. There's no judgment. How about that? That might be the best way to put it. When Hannibal's talking to his psychiatrist, and when Hannibal's talking to Will, and when Dr. Chilton is talking to Alana and Will. and Hannibal, it's very interesting the way that they approach things. Like Dr. Chilton, his response to them yelling at him, coming at him and accusing him of psychic driving is he consented to be treated. Like, that's it. Like, my ass is covered. And there seems to be a lack of sympathy or empathy for these patients. There seems to be a very clinical approach to, and maybe that's psychiatrists in general. I can't imagine that it is, but it's very interesting the way it's presented in this show, because I don't have any psychiatrists that I have I don't have a relationship with any of them. Does that make any sense? I don't feel anything for any of them except Alana, and that might just be because she's physically attractive.
Well, it's interesting too as far as Hannibal is concerned, and the doctor from last week's episode too, because they seem to have a very clinical approach to Will's encephalitis as well. Yeah. So it seems to be, it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on, whether you're a closeted serial killer or you're actually just a psychiatrist going into a prison and psychiatric ward and talking to this person, you still seem to have that lack of, I want to say lack of empathy, because that seems to be a word that's used a lot.
But they also have this heightened sense of arrogance. So arrogant, all of them, where they feel like they're completely untouchable. Anything that they do, it's fine. It's what I do. I'm far more educated than any of you.
When Hannibal's with his psychiatrist, they look like they look like the masters of the universe sitting there, discussing things from on high. I mean, it's really
Mount Olympus.
Absolutely, and it's that is no accident. That is absolutely
I did rewatch the first episode, Entree, with Eddie Izzard, because I was just before I saw this one, knowing that he was going to be back in it, and it was really interesting to see Dr. Chilton's reaction when he first met Will back in that episode. I'm not sure if I wasn't here for the podcast that week, but very, very interesting. He almost had a very similar reaction as Hannibal, and I can't remember the doctor from last week, the one that Hannibal ended up killing at the end, but a very similar reaction, like he wanted to study Will. Sutcliffe, that's what it was. He really wanted to study Will. Will's fascinating. I guess he's been written up already about his special talent. So it seems like psychiatrists everywhere who read about Will would love to get their hands on him. Hannibal's one lucky son of a gun, because he gets to do it every single day.
He's his all his.
It's his all his to manipulate and to mold and to do what have you. But it seems to be, again, a theme, like you said. All these psychiatrists seem to have this very clinical approach. I don't think this is doing really good for the psychiatry profession.
I've never, I got to be honest, I've never been a fan. They terrify me. It's the only part of our society where they have so much. They have so much power. You can choose to go to a psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist can take away a lot of stuff from you.
Yeah.
You choose to be committed or whatever. You give up your freedom. That's it.
I figure the worst that can happen is you pay what, $200-300 an hour, and then at the end of the hour they're like, all right, come back next week. Tell me some more stuff.
I think we should meet again. I liked that you brought money.
And they all have the most epic offices I have ever seen in my entire life. Come on, guys. Whatever happened to one in like a crappy little building on the corner?
But don't you trust him more? Wouldn't you trust the shrink more because they have a nice place? I mean, I know I would.
I mean, Lecter has this two-story epic library with ladders and floor-to-ceiling windows. Belinda is all flooded with light and God knows where in the middle of heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, they just
top of Mount Olympus.
That's it. Top of Mount Olympus. Chilton's like, come on.
I must say that
I want to be a psychiatrist so I can have an office just like that.
Wouldn't that be nice? What's your overhead?
Back to school.
I have none. You come to my enormous office and hang out. And one thing you did forget about Hannibal's, he has an epic necktie every time.
Oh yeah,
Windsor.
He's got the really
Windsor.
major Windsor there, major. But you mentioned it briefly because you obviously are a fan of Alana, but she is the one. She's the one person who does seem to have some empathy. She's the one person. At least she felt a little conflicted here.
Yeah.
Seeing Gideon on the loose and knowing that even though she's not the one who did the psychic driving, and she was doing what she thought was right, that she was also responsible for what happened.
Yeah, it's because she told Gideon that that he is not in a position to know who he is. So she laid the groundwork for the psychic driving mess.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who told him that you can't possibly know who you are right now. So she laid the groundwork for the mess, and she recognizes that.
And probably why he was saving her for last anyway, because I figured he felt that she was the catalyst, and maybe she has some more answers, so he wanted to get through.
But he seemed to have hesitation in killing her. He's sitting out there watching her in the snow, and he had this peaceful sense about him.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think he was going to go after her, or do you think that once Will, in that incredibly bizarre maniacal turn, had brought, that was so crazy. Will just brings Gideon right to Hannibal's table. I mean, my God.
That's a great scene.
Right? And you knew it, too. You saw the gun in his hand. You saw he's waiting. As soon as he said drive, you're like, where is he going to go? Hannibal's house.
Of course.
Where else is he going to go?
Well, I kind of wanted to bring this up later, but I will say this line, just going back to the to him outside of Alana's window.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Do you think that he went, do you think he would have got to Alana, or do you think it's only because Hannibal sent him there?
Well, I think he was going to end up killing Alana, no matter what.
Okay,
but
so you
he
think that
was
was on the table.
hesitating. But if anything, he was hesitating, I think, because he started to get a little bit more of a moral compass, maybe because he realized that Alana was trying to help him. I'm not sure. But I do love that line that he said to Will, that maybe if I kill her, like he would kill, maybe I can understand him better.
Right.
So that's his motivation. His motivation isn't really, he doesn't really care. Maybe he's being clinical in a way because he's trying, as a doctor himself, he's trying to find a clinical way of figuring out who he is. And if it involves killing people, it does.
I feel like he was grappling with killing her, though. Like he had a moral crisis there.
I agree with that. I agree that he did. I'm just saying that
Maybe it's
ultimately,
because he had now seen how Lecter is manipulating Will. Maybe he sort of sees a little, maybe he's a little empathic in that way and sees how Will is being
that's possible. That's a good point.
screwed left and right.
Again, another scene like last week where Hannibal is so comfortable in front of people whose psychosis he understands. Like he understood the gal last week, I can't remember her name, who thought she was dead, and couldn't see faces. You remember that? And felt very comfortable walking right past her, putting the knife in her hand, or scissors, whatever it was that she
The scissors.
put it right in her hand and walked right past her, knowing that there was no danger of her recognizing his face because she can't see faces.
Genius. He can hide behind these people's psychosis.
It's wild. And again, the
can
comfort,
never identify him. Even if they did, no one's ever going to believe them.
the comfort with Gideon. And he's sitting there with Gideon, and he knows that Gideon has got to understand what's happening here if he has any cognitive ability.
Yeah.
But he sends Gideon after Alana, and then he sends Will after Gideon. Don't go, Will. You have to be in the hospital. Please don't take these keys and this gun. He didn't. He just went in the other room and took his jacket off.
Was
He didn't even look over his shoulder.
But I do agree with you. It's interesting that, especially after Gideon's killing all these psychiatrists, he's in the room with one. It's not his, but he's in the room with one. And you think he'd be compelled to continue this. Maybe he would group them all into one label and do his dirty work onto Hannibal. Not that he'd get that far with him. He'd find out, if he tried, he'd find out he'd be in for a tougher fight than he'd imagine. But it's really interesting the power that Hannibal has with these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He understands the psychosis. He's 2 steps ahead of everybody, and you never know what the hell he's going to do. I think you said it. We were watching the thing. You never know what he's going to do. Like, okay, wow, what just happened? Gideon has been brought to Hannibal. Now what's he going to do? And he's just cool as a damn cucumber. Yeah. Will, what do you see? No, there's nobody there. Oh!
The chair is empty. Oh, no.
Crazy.
Now, if you're Gideon, what do you do at that moment? Do you go like, oh shit, things just got really weird?
Well, let's get back to that whole, Hannibal talking about Will's dream state and everything. But let's go into Will right now and talk about Will, because I feel like his dreams have become so much more vivid and dynamic. And just seeing that drowning scene that he ended up with in his bed in the beginning, and then of course the when he was in the room with Jack and all those antlers were surrounding him. Like, tell me about those dreams.
When he was in the thicket of antlers.
Yes, the thicket of antlers. I love that.
My heart really went out for him, to say the least. In this episode, he is. We are witnessing a man completely breaking down and not knowing what's real, what's not real, when you're awake, when you're not awake. He's seeing avalanches and the human totem pole.
Yeah.
I mean, he is hit rock bottom, I'm pretty sure.
It's got the antlers were pretty specific. I mean, you're surrounded by death and death's implements, and you're trapped in it. And then they've got Jack yelling at him. Just that surreal symbolism. He's surrounded by murder. He's surrounded by death. He's surrounded by the implements of murder and death, and he can't get out of it. He's literally trapped by the antlers. And the symbolism is not hidden. Very clear-cut symbolism there. And then the water dreams. Water tends to be about. I'm looking this up here about about what dreams. Water tends to be about purification, change, renewal, new life. I
thought drowning dreams usually are about being overwhelmed.
Yeah, now I'm not sure. Is he drowning or is the world melting around him? I don't know.
Well, it's funny. Didn't and I hate to mix our shows up, but wasn't there a discussion about the drowning dream from Bates Motel?
Yeah.
And wasn't that being like overwhelmed? There was something in there that they mentioned the reason for.
Yeah,
it.
you're in over your head. You can't. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know that he was drowning in this. I felt like his world was just melting, but I don't know if that meant he was being overwhelmed or or if he was just, the symbolism was that his reality was literally melting.
Yeah.
Like that was the glacier, right? Is the glacier reality and the glacier's coming apart in front of him?
Like the glacier's his mind.
Like maybe that's the deal. Everything's just collapsing.
It's pretty possible because I guess a glacier is something that you figure is, glaciers take forever to melt. So he's rapidly losing his mind, just like that glacier was rapidly shrinking. So it's very possible. One thing I did want to bring about the thicket, I got to, I listened, it was muffled, but if you heard what Jack was saying when he was yelling at him, he was saying, first I heard, "What kind of crazy are you?" And the big line that he said was, "You killed, you will kill again."
Yeah.
Which was foreshadowing because he ended up killing Hobbs again.
Jack yelled that?
Yeah,
When he was in
Jack
the thicket
yelled
of
at
antlers?
when Will was in the thicket of antlers. That was Jack's biggest line when he was yelling at, "You killed before, you will kill again."
And didn't Hannibal say that? Maybe not in those exact words.
Hannibal did.
He said that
He
to
said you could
him.
kill him. Yeah,
You killed him once, you can kill him again.
You kill him
once, you
again.
could kill him again.
Setting up this whole scenario at the end over at Alana's house.
Hannibal 2 steps ahead. Everybody.
Always.
It's weird how Hannibal was figured out more or less what Will was going through in his
Yeah.
dream and was able to paraphrase more or less what Will was going through in that dream of the thicket.
Yeah.
Kind of like giving him permission in his psychosis to take that next step that he's been fighting so hard for so long, and to not realize that, to not have the realization that he has a killer's mind and has a killer's instinct.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
giving him the permission to do it.
Yeah.
You've done it before.
Oh, absolutely.
You're deep in this, so might as well do it again.
Now, this is a discussion we had a few weeks ago where I don't remember who was arguing that Hannibal's setting Will up as a fellow killer, like he's trying to, almost like bring him out, And I argued that was that was incorrect, and I am wrong. I think that obviously having Will kill is definitely in Hannibal's interest. And the way Hannibal loads everybody and just moves the pieces on the game board is just. It is well done. I really enjoyed the heck out of it. One thing we didn't talk about yet? We haven't talked about Freddie Lourdes.
No, we haven't talked about Freddie.
Freddie.
I think it's Freddie Rounds.
Lounds.
Freddie Lounds, dang it.
Lounds.
Who's Lourdes? Freddie Lounds.
Freddie Lounds.
Again, amoral. Like nothing.
She was disturbingly unaffected during that surgery.
Wasn't that crazy?
That was weird.
Disturbingly unaffected.
You know that there were discussions had, like, hey, which way are we going to go with this? You're not going to, you feel nothing. Like there was.
Well, in her defense, I mean, she writes about this stuff all the time. I would think just like if we had our friend Aaron Abrams in that scene and he was taken captive and got to watch this, he probably wouldn't react.
He's in the medical profession. She's a writer.
Yeah, but she's a writer about these kind of
You
killings.
can write about it, but actually seeing that, a living, breathing, awake man whom you've met before, lying there on the table, just going through unspeakable and unimaginable things, and just sit there with a little ventilator and just watch.
I think it just shows her character, because her character, again, she stirs up trouble. She's always in the thick of it. She's dogged and determined to get her articles, to get the scoop. And I think it just shows that she probably is looking at this thinking in a way like, well, if I survive this is a hell of a story I could write about.
Story, you're right.
Yeah. So I think it's a definite play on her character.
It seems that the writers have some definite feelings about journalists and about psychiatrists. There definitely seems to be a little bit of a feeling.
Something to say.
They have a little comment to make. I thought that was very interesting. She finds herself in that story, and really, her behavior does not change. I think that's what's the most interesting thing to me. Like, you've been brought into the story, you're no longer an observer, you're actually part of the thing that's happening, and her actual character does not change. The behavior doesn't change. I'm still just observing. I don't care. I'm not involved. It was a fascinating scene.
I wonder if she was really deeper into this whole thing with Will, like Hannibal is, or any other psychiatrist seems to be with Will, and if she knew about this, if she would also just sit there and let Will descend into madness further.
You mean if she
for
knew he had
for
the
an article?
encephalitis?
Yeah, just to keep. Well, I would wonder what side she would take, because I guess either side would be a juicy story for her.
She'd let him go. She would.
think she'd let her go?
Oh, she would let him.
You think she wouldn't want to bury
flail
Hannibal?
in the wind?
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
She would be just as fascinated, if not more, than Hannibal is, on how this disease or infection is going to affect him and what he really is capable of. And that's a story.
Interesting. Well, I guess that's true, especially since she's already said so many nasty things about him already in her blog.
She sees him as a serial
Yeah.
killer. She sees it in him already.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we can't forget there are real life parallels to this all over the place. And you know, when the CIA first discovered LSD, they tested it on American scientists without telling them they were dosing them, and no one had any idea what a proper dose of LSD was. So they'd put, you know, a whole dropper full in a guy's drink and then just see what he did.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't tell him the guy was a subject. They would just, there you go for it, see what happens. There were documented cases of American scientists killing themselves because they went nuts.
Yeah.
They had a couple drinks, they went insane, and these guys just watched it happen.
Well, again, I think I said this last week, but there's something very medieval about this whole thing, because back then in the day when they were trying to discover medicine, they needed test subjects who had certain diseases to study and to analyze and to figure things out. And, you know, hate to say it, but some of modern medicine today might be attributed to the fact that they use guinea pigs,
Absolutely,
human
it's-
guinea pigs, to
without a
figure some
doubt.
of the stuff out,
yeah.
which is a very, very, you know, hidden, not necessarily hidden, but if you think about it, it's just a really creepy thing.
Well, if you take science all the way to its natural conclusion, and you just, you know, quote unquote pure science, whatever, you know, if you could take the human element out of it, and you just, which these guys are obviously very capable of doing, the characters they've written for them, it is just about observing what's going to happen and not interfering, and that seems to be the deal.
It
Yeah.
takes a very specific kind of mind, type of mind, to be able to live that life, to be that sort
Right.
of scientist, to just completely cut yourself off emotionally and you know, human empathy, and take it directly from a scientific stance.
Christopher Guest, Princess Bride. Tell me how you feel.
Yes.
Keep in mind. Please do try to be honest. This is for posterity.
Well, exactly.
So that being said, I mean, with Will's descent and his meltdown, especially at Hannibal's office with Gideon there, I mean, he was convinced that he saw Hobbs in the seat instead of Gideon, but Hannibal was able to convince him that it wasn't Gideon, it wasn't Hobbs, it was nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody sitting in the chair. You
is
just
empty.
spent like an hour bringing somebody over to my office when there's nobody there.
And Will did not go to kill Dr. Gideon. Will went to kill Garrett Jacob Hobbs.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to Alana's house to kill a dead man. That is how deep in this whole deal Will was.
I wonder how much money the actor playing Garrett
I
Jacob
think
Hobbs
about
makes.
that all the time.
'Cause he's in
All
almost every
the time.
scene.
He is in every single freaking episode.
And you know
What a
what? God
good
bless him.
gig.
That's awesome.
No, good for him.
That's amazing.
He's in the pilot, and next thing you know, they're calling him up, going, "Yeah, we need you for a dream sequence. We
He's
need you
really the catalyst for Will's entire character.
yeah."
Without Garrett Jacob Hobbs, Will would be nothing.
I mean, he's not talking, so I'm guessing he's not getting paid as much as he could.
Oh,
but,
he's doing fine.
But I'm sure he's doing fine, right?
His agent is well aware of the fact that if he doesn't show up, there's a real weird, awkward hole in the story.
I kind of want to have him here on the show just to find
He
out.
would be
We should call him up.
amazing
We
to
should
have.
figure out. Yeah, he'd be pretty cool to have. I think.
Yeah.
Could you come and make up the?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is the gig of a lifetime.
That scene though outside was really, really cool with Gideon and Will. That was so intimate, and I really love it when you find two characters, or nobody finds anything. When the writers of a well-written, well-crafted show set themselves up in a place where you have two characters who are on opposite sides of the universe but are dealing with parallel issues, have that moment of intimacy where they don't need to look at each other. They're outside. They're the only people who can hear them, and they have that scene that is so honest in its madness.
And again, they're both very vulnerable. And that line I mentioned before, which really is a line that really applies to Will too. If I kill her like he killed her, or like he would kill, maybe I can understand him better. That's what Will does when he's in his
exactly
dream
what Will
sequence.
does.
Will is in a dream sequence killing people like the serial
Yeah,
killers that
very
he's
true.
after in order to figure them out better, to understand what they are. But he's turning into one, whereas it seems like Gideon was just getting a more calm, reserved. It's almost the opposite effect that Gideon's going
It's
through. They're
like
like on different
Gideon
roads.
wants the power to do what Will does, even though it's completely destroyed Will.
Yeah, almost like that.
Well, what did Gideon say? He said, people like us can't be in relationships. We can't spend time with other people because when you can't get out of your own head.
They're already committed to their own head.
Right.
Yeah.
It's totally, you're 100% right. The parallel is enormous. That's exactly what Will does.
And again, they're looking at Alana while they're saying that line, which Will wants to get in a relationship with
Yes,
Alana.
exactly.
So he's almost being a therapist to Will right there too,
And
in
then
a way.
Will said during that, I want out. I want out of my own head. You know, that broke my heart. He's Will, my Will, my Hugh Dancy. I love him so.
Well, you know, there was a line earlier in the episode that almost mimics that other line too, when Will was talking to Jack and he said how he feels like somebody else, and he feels like he's gradually becoming someone different, and he fears not knowing who he is, which is what Gideon was going through
And
that whole
Gideon
episode.
said the exact same thing. He said, I don't know if I'll ever be myself again.
Yeah. So, again, it's just an amazing.
They're both such victims of evil manipulation. Both of them.
Yeah.
You know, they've both had their heads scrambled.
Yeah.
With a fork.
By
Because that's
psychiatrists.
the only way to scramble a brain. Just so you know.
Okay.
Well documented. The only way to
I
scramble
never
your
want to
brain.
try it. I never want to try it, but I'm just wondering about that.
You go in through the nose, and then you just twist around.
Ooh.
With a
okay.
fork.
Nice visual.
There you go.
Thank you for that. So,
Never need to know.
so let's talk about Hannibal, because we haven't really touched too much about him other than that dream sequence. I'm wondering, have we been able to figure him out a little bit better yet?
No, I want to understand this man, but I can't yet.
Okay.
It feels like there's obviously rules that they have about the way they're writing him, and they obviously have they obviously have they obviously have set up their guidelines, and that's obviously driving their plot, and it's driving how they tactically what Hannibal does, and so the rules, but the rules seem to be, to me anyway, what I'm getting is Hannibal has to survive, Hannibal has to observe, and he gets to play his games with everybody. And Hannibal has to manipulate, and then at the same time, he has to eat. So he has to be able to keep doing what he's doing because he's only going to eat one thing. But other than that, he's a character whose drive is so complicated that I'm not. You know, in other shows we've done, you have a pretty clear case. Like here's what's driving the quote unquote villain. But here, no, we don't have that. This is an antagonist who's, I mean, he's too smart for me to understand, Nando. I am not smart enough to understand
The
what
bar
they're
is
doing.
really high with him.
You know what I'm saying?
It's really high. You have to jump. You have to leap over to try and figure it out.
I'm not qualified,
As tall as you are, you're not qualified.
and I'm 6'3".
Julia, what do you think?
Lecter, he definitely is surprising us at every single turn. You really, like you said, you have no idea how he's going to react to any situation. What I love about Mads is his ever so subtle reactions to every little thing that comes in front of him, just like a little flick of his eye, and you're like, oh no, oh God, how's he going to handle this one? He's so clever in that he really is able to manipulate every single person who comes his way and just moves the pieces around the board to his liking, and he makes it all work out for himself every single time. And I love how he always, it's a very psychiatrist thing to do, and how he susses out how much his patients actually know about him specifically. Tell me the last thing you remember. Tell me, just so I know what I'm dealing with here, and then I'll judge accordingly and go from there.
Yeah,
I want to see him ruffled. I think that the only time I've seen him truly ruffled was when he was fighting Tobias. And even then, he seemed very in control. Like, no one yelled in that fight. I don't think anybody screamed.
No, we've never seen him get mad.
I want to see him ruffled. And I know... I know I haven't done any comparing between the films and the show because I realize I don't want to do that. But I feel like there's an opportunity for them to let him loose a little bit. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him trapped, ruffled. I'd like to see him scramble.
He's pretty much had the upper hand this whole time.
You know, the second I think I'm figuring out what he's doing and why he's doing it, then they do a scene with he and Dr. Belinda, and he's And I'm like, what are you? What is your motivation?
He's sitting there with Gillian
here?
Anderson, and what I said it last time. I said it this episode. Why go see the psychiatrist if you're just going to lie? I don't understand. Why go see the shrink if you're going to tell the shrink that you want Will to be your friend?
But I don't think he is lying. I think he really
In
wants
some
him to
weird
be his
way, I
friend.
kind of agree. I think he does want him to be at least a plaything of his. But I think in his eyes, that's as close as someone can be as far as a friendship with him. It is for him to manipulate them in a certain way to have fun with them.
So is it fair to say that? Well, I guess you're right.
Don't you have a friend? Don't you have a friend you ever like to tease and push their buttons all the time and mess around? But you still consider him a friend. But you probably don't treat him the best way you always do. We're talking about Braswell. We know we are.
No. Brazzy's nobody's whipping boy. So you're saying that Will is the friend that he, hey buddy, drink this.
Kind of a little bit. I think there's some of that. I think there is some of, and I know somebody on YouTube posted this too from our last episode. Our last show, that they think that they're trying to train Will to kill, and you said you disagreed with it, but it seems more relevant now.
Yeah, it sure does.
After seeing him kill Gideon, thinking he's Hobbs.
And letting his encephalitis run rampant. I think I may have touched on this maybe last time. Maybe it's an opportunity for him to really shape and mold his brain and the way he does things to exactly the way he wants them. His perfect little friend. And he says he wants to contain his madness, so maybe there's a part of him that's maybe a little paternal towards him, where he wants to let him just all out completely freak out, and then he wants to be the one to save him, to reel him back in.
Here's another thought that we didn't really hit on with Will doing what he did at the end outside of Alana's house. He saved Alana, and she saw that. So maybe in a way he's kind of gift wrapping Alana's relationship with Will. Maybe he wants them to cement some little love story. Maybe it's part of his game. Maybe it's part of his manipulation.
Well, that would be friendly.
That would be a friend. That would be something to do with a
That's
friend.
something a friend would do.
Well, let me toss this out there, because I wonder. I wonder, are we giving Hannibal too much credit at this point? Because either way, he just set the balls in motion. He can't control how they roll down the hill. So he sets the balls going down the hill. He sends Gideon off to Alana's house, and he sends Will after Gideon. But there's no guarantee that Will, with the mad encephalitis, is even going to get to Alana's house. And there's no guarantee that Will doesn't get hit by a truck on the way to Alana's house, thinking the truck is a stag that's happening in his brain. I mean, Will is a mess.
That's true.
And it's not like he sent Will after Gideon. He sent Will after a dead dude. So, I mean, there's a pretty good chance.
He sent him after a dead dude that he knew if he got to the dead dude, he would kill and take care of him for him.
Right. Well, yes, but my point is, I guess that either way, Hannibal was going to be in the position to see what Will's going to do next. Again, it's all very clinical from my perspective, unless I'm probably missing something, but it seems this way at any rate. If Gideon kills Alana, Will's all screwed up because his love interest is dead. If Will gets there and is the hero, then Alana's into Will. Either way, we're going to get to see what Will does next. Yeah. Either way.
Well, he's tested Will before. He tested him with Tobias when he sent him after Tobias, knowing that Tobias was going to kill any FBI agent that came in.
Yeah.
And
right.
So he's testing Will,
too. Do you think Lecter would be all broken up inside if Will actually failed one of these tests and died? Something happened to him?
I don't know if he'd be broken up, but I think he is pleased with the fact that Will is passing these tests, and he's challenging Will, and
But what
Will's
happens when he
passing.
doesn't? How is he going to react? Like, he's a smart guy. He's weighing both his options.
I think he moves on the jack.
I've got a backup best friend. His wife is cheating on him. She has cancer too. Things are really cool in their house.
Well, just to get back to
Really
that last scene between Hannibal and his psychiatrist. He says a couple of things. I actually think that in the same way that sometimes people like to talk to someone and give them their opinion just to hear validation, I think he wants to say certain things and get validated by her. Because if you listen to what she's saying, she's pretty much telling him to do what he's been doing with Will. I feel. I did not get a chance to write anything, but
sometimes you just have to. All we can do is watch.
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
All we can do
Again,
is
two
watch.
people sitting up on Mount Olympus. Two demigods.
Speaking in code.
I really can't help but feel the show does not have a very high opinion of psychiatrists, but it just has such a nasty taste in my mouth that they just sit there in their pristine outfits and their perfectly poised positions and just, well, sometimes you just need to let it go and all we can do is watch.
Yeah.
And well, how do you feel about that? Well, it's such an interesting creepiness to it, like a complete.
But at the same time,
lack of emotion.
she doesn't know the whole deal. She doesn't know about the encephalitis. She doesn't know exactly what's going on. He's telling her what he feels he needs to tell her to get the answer he wants. He manipulates everybody. Who's to say he's not manipulating her to at least confirm his own beliefs? Just to give him a little pat on the back, even though she doesn't realize what she's talking about. In relationship.
Well, I think he's always manipulating her because, as I stated before, I think he had something to do with her killing a patient.
And I
I'm
agree.
just throwing that out there.
I can agree with that.
I think he gets his little kicks hanging out with her too. Just feeling a little bit bigger, a little bit taller.
You know what? In fact, I picture him killing her stalker, whoever that was, her patient, in the same way that Will ended up killing Gideon, like something like he's stalking outside the window, and then Hannibal comes by and saves her. I almost picture that exact same scenario, which might be a prediction. Who knows?
I want to throw something out there that maybe, I don't know, the voice of God over here.
Voice of God, Stephen Lemieux.
And she's, of course, played by, wow, I can't remember.
Gillian
her name.
Anderson.
Yeah, Gillian Anderson looks amazing in the show. Dana Scully, gotta love the whole X-Files. But no, what she says, and she's like, you gotta sit back and watch. The first scene we see between them in the whole series is she knows who Hannibal is. She knows exactly what he is. So it's kind of like her saying, like, we just got to sit back and watch, because she's watching Hannibal just the same way to see how he's going to fall.
Does she know he's a killer?
She know?
I don't think she knows
I
he's a killer.
swear to God, she's got to know. Like,
Well, you're swearing now. You're swearing to God, but the voice of God is swearing to God.
She's got to
That
have
gets
some
confusing.
inclination. I just don't see how she couldn't. Plus, I mean, it's kind of interesting to also see the dynamic between the two with she left because a patient attacked her, and then she's sitting across from the person who's most likely to attack her in a way. Like,
Well, I agree that I think the reason why she sees him, he's her only client, is maybe because she knows that he's got a dark side, and maybe she just figures it's easier to just talk to
She tried
him.
to get rid of him.
Yeah.
She tried to refer him to someone else, and he said he was
Exactly.
persistent or stubborn or something
Stubborn or
like
persistent.
that. Yeah, something like that.
So I do see that. I don't think she really knows, because if she did, I feel like he would be a little more forthcoming in these
Maybe
scenes.
she knows that there's a darkness to him, but I don't think that she could ever just pull that out of thin air, the scope to which he's capable.
There's an oddness to their scenes. I'd be very interested. I'm expecting. I'll get to it in predictions. Never mind. I'm taking this back to predictions. Never mind.
I just want to say I'm looking at the chat room, and occasionally I see something, and somebody named Guest 14 said maybe Hannibal respects people who survive traumas.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's actually a really good point, because look, Will, he keeps on coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wants to be his friend more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Hannibal leaves a, you got a bear trap, and maybe there's a huge blade that swings down on from the street to Hannibal's house. There's lots of stuff up on the way up, and if you get through all of it, you can ring the bell. Is that the deal?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice little. It's like American Ninja Warriors at top of the mountain, Mount Midoriyama.
That's an interesting idea. I like that.
So anyway, yeah. So I think
should we do some tickety?
we could do some tickety-ticketies, or I mean, to be honest, let's see, what do we have here? Well, I should shout out to Watchtower and I just closed it, so now I got to figure Ryan Whittleson and our guy Mark, who's writing in from Denmark all the time, and Lions fan. I see the usual guys here. I feel like this is my magic mirror. I get to count on everybody. So thanks for hanging out with us and live and chewing the chat in the chat room. Chatting to chew. I'm mixing I'm mixing something up over here. It's late. And then and then I don't know what I just said there.
This is my fault.
This is I'm turning into Braswell. Because that's what he's chicken and egg me. For anybody chicken egg me here. Yeah, that's my chew and chat.
Aw,
Chat and
Braz, we
chew.
miss you.
One of my favorite restaurants in New York, Chat and Chew.
Chat and chew.
Yeah, and I can't pull up the other stuff, so that's my tickety ticket.
All right. Well, if you are listening on the iTunes, we thank you.
And yeah, please rate us. And
Yes.
What do we love?
If you're downloading us on the iTunes, please, we do love fives, so thank you. And we would like to thank you for downloading us on iTunes. Please keep it up. And if you want to see what we look like live and in person, please go to the YouTubes, and you can go ahead and check us out there. And should we go ahead and do some predictions?
Yeah, let's do some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Ooh.
Got some lighting effects over here.
That one seemed different. That's deep, man.
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
Flippo does.
All right, I got a prediction. I think there's something weird about the whole relationship with Hannibal and our girl Gillian Anderson.
Oh, no.
I think that there's something going on there. I think we're going to find out either she's in a psychiatric hospital of some sort, or B, she's, I don't know. It almost feels like Psycho, like she's dead or something. Something's not right. The whole thing feels weird. So I think we're going to find that there's something bizarre going on there. Either she's in a psych ward or she's on house arrest or some such thing, because something's not right. And his access to her feels bizarre, and their scenes feel bizarre. So that's my. That's
If
my
she's
prediction.
dead, he's the one who killed her.
Whoa. Duh.
Oh, come on, guys.
So that's my prediction.
I do like that. I like that a lot.
Nice
What do-
prediction.
Oh yeah. Every now and then. What do you got for us, Julia?
Wow.
What do you got?
Nothing in comparison to
That's
that
not true.
gem. I think. What do I think? I think. Oh, you know what we never touched on? Will's in the hospital, guys. Someone's gonna find the
Encephalitis.
encephalitis. Someone's gonna find it. Oh, the they who can't find this.
By the way,
the source and the
2 days in
infection.
the hospital and you
Guys,
haven't even looked for encephalitis? Come on, hospital. What the hell?
Guys, isn't his brain completely inflamed?
105,
we missed
hallucinations. He's killing people that are already dead. Encephalitis.
I know it. I knew it right off the bat.
Dr. Sanfellipo
Listen,
here at your service.
I've been told I can't prescribe medication. The judge was very clear. But if I were a doctor, I would definitely have sorted that out already.
So I think he's going to get that sorted out. I think they're going to find it, whether it's the they doctors or Alana. Someone's going to find it. Someone's going to figure it out, because we can't have 2 more episodes with him this
It's no
crazy.
fun.
We just can't. So I think he's going to get a little cured up a little bit, and I think he's going to start realizing that his good, bestest buddy in the whole wide world was maybe keeping a little something from him.
Yeah. Well, we saw a little bit of that in the clips for next week.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, well, just a tiny. No, just a tiny. No, it's a good prediction.
Your prediction
But you didn't predict.
sucked.
You did not predict that they would figure out the encephalitis. But you remember he's saying he's figuring out something on the inside, but Hannibal turned it back around to him.
Uh-oh.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right, Mark. Sorry, you're Holland, not Denmark. I messed up with Mark's thing. I just read that there. I wanted to correct that. My prediction.
Tell us your prediction.
What you got?
You know what? These dreams, everything is psychosis just getting worse and worse. And we saw that stag on fire. I'm going to predict that Will's going to start attacking these figments of his imagination, physically attacking. And he is going to possibly hurt, endanger, I won't say kill, but definitely maybe hospitalize somebody as a result of his psychosis.
Well, the
That's what I
music
predict.
agrees with
Someone
me.
he loves.
The music right now completely agrees.
The music stands by me. Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's a
so
good prediction too.
that's a good one, right? I think I try
like it.
every now and then I get a good one. Every now and then. All right, Mr. Sanfellipo, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Joe Flippo, JoeFlippo, and you can also find me here at AfterBuzz. Joe Braz and I do Mad Men on Sunday nights, and we've got our big Mad Men finale coming up, so you guys should check out the website. There's going to be a great big finale at the John Lovitz Theater. Also, if you guys have kids, you should grab Escape from Planet Earth. It just came out on DVD. It's a lot of fun, and I'm one of the bad blue guys. And that's about it.
And Julia, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Twitter as well at Julia Cearley. My name, JuliaCearley.
Great.
My friend. Follow
And
me.
how about you, Nando Velasquez?
You can also find me on that miraculous tool called Twitter. You can find me at Nandovel, and that's Nandovel. Also, you can find me here for a couple other shows on AfterBuzz, including Defiance, and I'll be starting Falling Skies. And then also, I'm doing a show called Geek Hero on Tuesdays at the Joint Studios, LA.com. You can follow me on Twitter, and I'll put more info on that. But anyway, we got a couple more weeks of this, so we look forward to talking to you again next week. Thanks for tuning in.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.